So I'm just following a story which I think really exemplifies how ridiculous aspects of the race debate can be. I was trying to think of a better way to describe that, but really it is ridiculous. Um, so if you've been following this story, the BBC's apologised today um, as one of its reporters made use of the M word. Just a disclaimer, I'm not going to use the word in this video because I don't want to be demonetized for that reason. Or not just demonetized. I don't want to have abuse thrown at me. But I think it highlights the challenges that journalists and public figures have with this and how absurd that is. So I'll read out the report. It's not extensively long. Then I'll share a few of my thoughts on that because I think it is just it's nonsensical. So the report's by Ellie Harrison. BBC Director General Tony Hall apologises for racial slur in news report. We made a mistake. We are very sorry. This is from the Independent newspaper, as reported by Ellie Harrison. BBC Director General Tony Hall has apologised on behalf of the corporation some 10 days after the use of the M word in a BBC News report. The BBC was hit with more than 18,600 complaints over the use of the racial slur by its social affairs correspondent Fiona Lambden, who is white. Repeated the M word in a report on what police to have been a racially motivated hit and run attack on a young NHS worker in Bristol. While relaying what frightened witnesses allegedly heard the perpetrator shout as they fled, Lambden narrated in a pre-recorded segment, "Just to warn you, this is very important, just to warn you, you're about to hear highly offensive language, because as the men ran away, they hurled racial abuse, calling him, and the paper doesn't print the word, but the M word, you know what it is." The BBC initially defended its decision, but according to media journalist Scott Bryan, Hall has now emailed staff saying the BBC now accepts that we should have taken a different approach at the time of broadcast, and we are very sorry for that. He added it should be clear that the BBC's intention was to highlight an alleged racist attack. This is important journalism which the BBC should be reporting on. Well, to most people with a brain, that's exactly what it was. Yet, despite these good intentions, I recognise that we have ended up creating distress among many people. Every organisation should be able to acknowledge when it has made a mistake. We made one here. It is important for us to listen and also to learn, and that is what we will continue to do. He added the BBC is strengthening its guidance on offensive language. Tony Hall announced earlier this year that it would be stepping down as Director General after 7 years in the role. Tim Davie, the head of BBC Studios, will replace him. The BBC's initial refusal to apologise for the slur led to BBC Radio 1 Extra host Sideman quitting in protest. He said, "With no apology, I just don't feel comfortable being aligned with the organisation." Right, there's a few things to say around this. That point about what Paul said. It should be clear that the BBC's intention was to highlight an alleged racist attack. This is important journalism which the BBC should be reporting on. What the Independent doesn't say is that the victim's own family wanted the word to be used in the report. Um, I saw the young man who was attacked, and horrible injuries. This was a vicious attack, um, and I think particularly because of the vicious nature of this, um, it's all the more reason for the word to be used in the context of a report. This is an insane situation because Black Lives Matter and other so-called anti-racism pressure groups, and I say so-called because it's areas like this which really, really raises questions about their attitude. Um, they say that they want racism to be discussed as a problem in society. They want it to be highlighted, to be discussed, addressed. When it is, and when context is used and explained, then a journalist doing her job is criticised. The broadcaster, you know, reporting on the incident gets criticised. It's insane. It's like lobbyists want us as a society to talk about racism, but when it is spoken about, if it's by white people, then that's no go. Even if it's a white person doing her job reporting the racism. It's insane. I mean, are we going to be in a situation where a white director or a white writer can talk about racial injustice against black or brown people because it would require them having to use racial racially derogatory terms if, for example, they are writing through the narrative of the racists or the slave owners, whatever it might be. It just, I mean, the late director Alan Parker, who was white, he made the controversial film Mississippi Burning. Okay, the film was controversial for inaccuracies, but it has racially charged terms because the Klansmen are hardly going to be attacking a black person and saying, "Oh, let's just invite this black gentleman up onto the news." No, they're going to be throwing out all sorts of horrible language at him. That's reality. So I just think it's absurd. I accept that 18,600 is a lot of complaints. It's a lot higher than usual. And I speculate, and this is just speculation, but I reckon a lot of those people probably hadn't even heard the report. They're jumping on the bandwagon. Or they think, oh, the BBC said the M word, let's complain, without actually looking at the context as explained. Now, what's happened is the BBC's caved into this, and families' wishes have been ignored. The family of the victim, the young black man who was attacked in this vicious, unprovoked assault, hit and run. You know, he had horrible injuries, really marked down his face. I imagine that would be just a slap in the face to them for the BBC to do a U-turn on this. I think they should have stuck by their decision and explained it. Rather than making an apology, I think they should have just done some sort of announcement saying this is the context. That troubles me that they immediately went to the apology. And I wonder, is it because of what this character's sideman, with him resigning? I've never heard of him. Who is he? A DJ, apparently? Well, my question is, and this is a very important point, if the controversy is around white people using the M word, or let's say the M word being used, more to the point, what would someone like Sideman have to say about rap music or drill music, which are inundated with the M word and other offensive terms? Not just the M word, but they're full of misogyny, they're full of homophobia, they glamorize and promote gang violence. They literally promote turf wars in the case of drill music. You know, you criticize that. Oh no, you can't do that. It's just the youth expressing themselves. So I don't know this person, Sideman. I don't know what his views are on rap music. It would not at all surprise me if he turned a blind eye to it, as he apparently has, because he would have raised that if that's his issue with the M word. So the hypocrisy is just absurd. So, with the greatest of respect, if you're black and you're outraged by that report, but you have nothing to say about the use of the M word in rap videos, then you're a hypocrite. I'm sorry, but you are, especially when you ignore the context. The reporter wasn't being racist; she was reporting racism, and I understand. I understand that the word can be charged, but they gave due warning. It's not like she just said it. She said, "We're going to use an offensive term." The absurdity of this is just, unfortunately, an indictment of where we are at. 18,600 people is a lot of people to complain, but it's worth considering that there's probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of other people out there who can see the absurdity of this, including many black people. So these professional complainers who always want to find something sinister where it doesn't exist, they really are causing a lot of harm to society, in my opinion. Because now what we're going to have, are we going to have a situation where journalists can't do their job properly? I mean, how are they meant to report something like that? I mean, I guess they could say the attackers fled and they use a racially charged term, which is why they know it as the M word. That's just, I don't think the semantics of that are as accurate. And it's like trying to sanitize the gravity of it. I mean, that's the irony. This was a black victim, right? And the BBC is highlighting this. But, I've criticised the BBC. I think, for example, when it's come to victims, like white victims of racism, they ignore that largely. I've criticised the BBC for its political correctness, and I think that there's other areas, a lot of other areas, the BBC deserves criticism. But I think they were right to stick their guns initially, and I wonder why this U-turn's come about after 10 days. I mean, is Seidman such an influential figure that his resignation would have triggered this? Maybe the BBC got jitters that Black Lives Matter would turn on them. And I'm not suggesting, by the way, it's Black Lives Matter that's made those 18,600 complaints, but whoever, I wouldn't be at all surprised if a lot of the complaints are white people. White people virtue signaling to show how outraged they are that the N word was used. I think it's very sad, very sad. I think the BBC shouldn't have apologised. I think because there was a lot of complaints, they could have just clarified it and said, we regret if people felt offended by this, but we did make it clear that we were talking in this context and also make it clear that that's what the victim's family wanted. It's crazy. If you're one of those people who complained, shame on you because you ignored the context. You are essentially taking away a voice from the victim if you're one of those people who complained because you don't want to respect his family's wishes of having the full gravity of that attack exposed. I mean, I guess this is just a random thought. It might have been racist who actually complained about the usage of the N word. I doubt it though, and more likely it's just people who won't listen to context. I'm not the only one. I know this from looking at social media. I'm not the only one who thinks this is ridiculous.